It's that time of year again. Leaves are falling, the weather is cooling down, and you're after a spooky scenario for your group that you can run in 1 or 2 sessions. Well, I've got your back for that last one. Hi, I'm Karl, and this video is part of this month's Dungeon Jam, Trick or Trouble. You better believe there will be a lot of both in this scenario, and you can find more scenarios by many of your favorite dungeon tubers in the Dungeon Jam playlist. This scenario is called Troubled Nights, and it follows a band of adventurers on what should be a fairly simple pickup job. Obviously, things are never simple, and they start to find their health and sanity quickly slipping away. The adventure can be downloaded for free from the links in the description, so go ahead and grab yourself a copy. In this video, I will be going over the scenario and how I ran it, so if you're planning to experience it as a player, you might want to sit this one out so you don't spoil it for yourself. If that's the case, do consider sending it to your game master to see if it's right for your table. Our story starts in a large city, where the adventurers have been offered good money for a simple job. They need to take a bag of money to a tavern in a village a few days away, exchange it for a piece of jewelry, and bring that back. The only other information that they are given is that their contact will be wearing a sprig of lavender in his hat. A lot of players might be suspicious about the high offer, but there's nothing especially sinister there. The job is simple, but it needs to be done quickly and quietly. Behind the scenes, the job has been orchestrated by the secretary of the city's ruler, who is trying to avoid a scandal. The ruler's wife has given the jewel to an intimate friend, and while the ruler does suspect something is up, he can't call her out without evidence because her relatives are quite powerful. He organizes a festival and asks her to wear the jewel there to create the grounds to start asking questions out in the open. And his wife can't very well send word out to get back because any messenger she sends out would be intercepted. Now, the ruler's secretary does not want trouble shaking the city, because there are other factions who are just itching to move in the second there is a sign of weakness or distraction. He arranges for the jewel to be stolen and sends a group of adventurers with no connections to the rulers to retrieve it. To complicate matters further, a witch has infiltrated the ruler's household and she wants there to be chaos. So she decides to make the adventurers' lives difficult on this mission. This setup was mostly clipped from the Three Musketeers, something one of my players caught on to eventually. Most of the backstory will be hidden from the players, at least for now, but it can give you ideas on where the game can go from here once the adventure is over. For the time being, all they're going to hear about is the grand festival that is going to happen soon. But the fun really starts when the party settles down to rest for their first night on the road. I like to have them stop at inns whenever possible, because that usually means that they're going to have their guard down, and they might also be split up. Wherever they rest, one of the adventurers is going to have a terrible nightmare. The exact details of the nightmare are best left to your discretion, but you should really key it to the adventurer. For example, one of the player characters I had suffer a nightmare was Lizette, who had previously been accused of witchcraft. Her nightmare was an endless walk towards the stake, while everyone she had ever met jeered her from the sides. Since we're talking nightmares here, make sure that you're aware of what your players are comfortable with at all times. Traumatizing their fictional characters? A-okay. Traumatizing your actual players, or grossing them out, or making them feel uncomfortable is all sorts of not okay. Just don't. The adventurer wakes up to an absolute mess the next morning. Their chest is sore as if something heavy had been placed on top of them, their clothes are all crumpled up, and if they look into a mirror, or someone else sees them, they find that their hair is tied up in hundreds of intricate knots. This will be the adventurer's first sign of the witch's surprise for them. If they ask around, one of the older people working in the inn may be able to tell them that this is the work of an alp, a fey being which causes nightmares and plays pranks on his victims. They might also be able to mention 1 or 2 folk practices to ward it away, such as sleeping with a broomstick under your bed, or placing your shoes with the toes pointed towards the door before you sleep. But whether any of these work is entirely up to you. Once they get ready to leave, the adventurers will find yet another unpleasant surprise. The party's best horse looks like it's been ridden all night, and it's absolutely exhausted. They won't be able to take it anywhere in this state, so they'll either need to sort out a new mount or slow their pace. Of course, this is just the start of the adventurers' problems. From here on out, they will not be able to get any benefit from resting, and anytime they try to sleep, they'll suffer increasingly horrendous nightmares. As they travel, they will feel watched even in the most isolated places. And if one of them splits up from the rest, they may spot a white mouse with a red hat, observing them before disappearing off into the grass. By the time they get to their destination, they should be rather worried and very confused. Once they reach the village, I gave my players a slight change of pace. The people there were mostly nice to the adventurers. My reasoning here was that there will be a fight scene shortly, and I wanted my players to want to protect the villagers. Mostly though, this is a quiet interlude to give the players time to cook and argue about what is going on with them and how to deal with it. At some point the players will be approached by a stranger in a red hat. This is the alp in his human disguise. He is easily bored, so he got tired of watching them and decided to pop in for a chat.
It's so nice to see fellow travellers in this dreadfully boring little place. What brings you to this dead end, then? Me? Oh, I'm here on business.
Unless they make the connection between the red hat he wears and the one they might have seen on the mouse earlier, the players might not realize that this man is related to what is going on with them. And that's fine. He's just there to confuse them. He will not lie, but he is very good at deflecting, so even if they point out the detail about the hat...
My, you must have very sharp eyes. Maybe she should have been more worried about you.
The one thing he will not do is give out his name. Instead, he will give them something else to call him by before disappearing.
My name? Now, names are too powerful to be thrown about like that. But you may call me Goldbuckle if that makes you happy.
If the adventurers are rude or violent during this encounter, Goldbuckle will try to curse them with his evil eye. On the other hand, if they manage to entertain him, he will let up the torment a little. He'll still give them nightmares, but he'll stop tying up their hair and messing up their clothes. If they somehow manage to kill him, it will only earn them a brief pause as he will return on the next sunset. And boy will he be annoyed. Soon after this, it should be time for the players to meet their contact. Once they get to the tavern, they will meet some of the locals, but very soon some rough-looking men will start to make their way in a few at a time. Finally, a particularly loud fellow wearing a sprig of lavender in his hat will make his entrance. This man is not their contact. He's a bandit who waylaid the original contact, stole the jewel, and tortured the details of this meeting out of him. His plan is to leave the tavern with both the jewel and the bag of money that the adventurers brought along. I played this guy as obnoxious as I could. In the end, he'll sit down, put his hat on the table, and slide something shiny under it. He doesn't know the adventurers or the locals, so he'll wait for the party to make contact. A fight is almost certain to break out at this point. There should be too many bandits for the party to handle, but the bandits mostly just want to take the money and the jewel and run off. The table gets knocked over, sending the bag and jewel to the floor. I used this scene to experiment with the ideas I stole from Baldur's Gate 3, so I ruled that anyone who was holding on to either the bag or the jewel had to roll a save if they were hit in the crowded tavern, sending the objects flying if they failed. If the objects were on the ground at the end of a turn, they would get kicked around randomly. This worked great as both the players and the NPCs had to move around constantly. Since the tavern is full of locals, I also ruled that a bad miss would hit a bystander instead of the intended target, which really lit a fire under the players. When I ran this, one of the adventurers grabbed the money and took a running jump out of the window, getting grazed by a pistol shot before disappearing into the night. Another adventurer took a dive at the jewel and, though it changed hands a couple of times, they managed to get it to safety too. The last adventurer just barely managed to make a fighting retreat out of the tavern before giving the bandits the slip, and the party rode out of town as fast as their horses would carry them. By this point, the party was in pretty bad shape, and they didn't know when or if they could rest and recover, so their urgency to get back to the safety of the city walls was pretty spectacular. The bandits won't follow them too close to the city, but the adventurers still have Goldbuckle to deal with. Now, Goldbuckle is only bothering them because the witch sent him to disturb them on their mission, so once they turn in the jewel, he'll leave them alone. Unless they went and made it personal. If they want to get him off their backs earlier, they will need to find some way to negotiate with him. There isn't a whole lot he cares about, but if the party can trap him or take away his hat, he will begrudgingly accept he's been beaten. In my party's case, they managed to spot him and trap him in a jar before he could escape. But I'd leave the details to your party's imagination.
Listen, I'll cut you a deal. You let me go, and I swear by my hat and the north wind I will not trouble you again. Don't leave me in here. I'm already bored.
Whatever happens after that is entirely up to you. There are plenty of threads left to pick up after the party turns in the jewel and gets paid, and even more trouble for them to head into. A massive thank you to Mordecai for voicing Goldbuckle, and as for the rest of you, remember to grab the free PDF with this adventure from the links below. Do let me know what you think about the format. I'm currently working on a supplement for the Four Horsemen, and the pattern is a supernatural creature and a short adventure to go with it, so any feedback would be incredibly useful. If you want to hear a different story involving Alps, Questbortalion also has done a video involving this critter, so head on over to her channel for some amazing storytelling. Well, that's all for this time. You all take care and sleep with one eye open. Bye!